state that, and I'm tired of people. I'm actually tired of people who are very superstitious. You get sick of that. I'm just going to state that. I get sick of people who are so superstitious about God. And you know what? I think that what makes a superstition is when things are taken out of context. I want to kind of get into something about superstition for a moment. And I was thinking about superstition. There's a superstition that says if you use one match to light 3 cigarettes, it's bad luck. Superstitions can be born out of situations that actually made sense at the time, but then circumstances have changed, but people still hang on to that thought, even when it's no longer valid. From what I understand, that particular superstition came from World War I. In the battlefields, they would tell people to be careful at night when you're lighting a cigarette or something. Don't leave the match lit long enough to light 3 cigarettes. If you do that, the enemy can spot your position and then they'll fire. They'll shoot. So that was good practical advice. Then the war is over and it becomes a superstition to light 3 cigarettes with one match. If you light 3 cigarettes with one match, it's bad luck. Some mysterious bad luck. You don't know what exactly the bad thing is. But of course, during the battlefield, the bad luck was that you're going to get hit by a bullet or a mortar or something. And yeah, it made sense at the time, but then things have changed. See, things in the Bible are out of context in time. I think we would understand everything in the Bible, all the stuff in the Bible, if we actually lived in a time when those things were written. Those things might have actually made tremendous sense. And then circumstances changed. The world changed. Miracles aren't even that thrilling when you think about them because, when I look around, I see things that are more miraculous today than were ever written of in the Bible. The fact that I can make this video is far more miraculous than anything that anybody could have thought of in the Bible. The internet is more miraculous. But yet people want to cling on to that old stuff. It's like clinging on to, I have a Windows 3.1 computer. And it's more like a museum piece now. It does still work. But I can't use that in a practical way. If I tried to get on the internet with that, it would be a joke. I'd have to modify that computer. I'd have to spend more money modifying that computer than it would be to just buy a new one. But that's just an interesting, conversation piece. But it does still work. I can't do anything with that thing. It's the same thing with the Bible. It's just a conversation piece. I'm not arguing against the Bible. It has its place in the world. It has its place in literature. But, just like I've said once to someone, quoting actually a line from a movie, it is a great blessing to know one's place in the world. Well, yeah, it's a great blessing for the Bible itself to know its place in the world. Maybe in this way, Sam Harris is right. It should take its place among other, literary works of mythology. It is a myth. The things in the Bible are myths. That's all. I've understood that even from the very beginning. They were myths. I knew that stuff wasn't literally true. It's just stories that are meant to make a point. And yet, I always had a problem with people who took things in the Bible literal. Because when you take it literal, then it becomes superstition. It becomes nothing but pure superstition. There's no way that scientifically or in any kind of reasonable way in today's world you can accept many of the things that are in the Bible. You just can't do that. You can't accept creation in 6 days. You can't accept, just the order of it. I mean, you could take the Bible apart and pick it apart. But I also criticize people who do sit there and overly criticize the Bible because it is like shooting fish in a barrel, like someone once said. It's kind of like it's ridiculous. The only reason why some people do that and keep bashing everybody over the head with that stuff is because it's just a matter of an ego thing. You get a chance to feel like you're superior to those who believe the Bible. and those who take it literal. Now, I just think the people who take it literal are like people who had a real bad math teacher who taught them that 1 + 1 = 7. You know, you're going to have enough problems in life that you're going to have to think that maybe I need to go back to school, or maybe I need to get me a math book written by a legitimate teacher and study it. You just need to stop following something that doesn't work. The one thing that tells you whether or not the things in the Bible are true isn't that you can go back in time or you can go in the time machine, because you can't do that. But what you can do is you look at the principles, apply those principles. If they work, then you know it's true. If they don't work, then you know it's not true. It's just like William James said. The truth of a thing, it wasn't William James' battle. It was, I forget the guy's name, John Dewey. The truth of something is, does it work? If it works, it's true. If it doesn't, it's not. And it's just that simple. Some of the things in the Bible do work. You know, do unto others as you would have them do to you. You know, I try to follow the golden rule. But the golden rule, I think, is really more of a reflection of just nature. I think even animals follow the golden rule to a certain extent. I know that in particular from a particular squirrel in the park. One particular squirrel taught me that lesson, that they even understand the golden rule. I know it sounds silly, but it's true. Not that he said anything, because if he did, then I need to go to a mental hospital. But it was the way he acted with me, an interaction with me, with that squirrel, the way he responded to certain things. But you learn important lessons. You can learn a lot of things from the Bible. I think the Bible is a wonderful book. I have 2 Bibles. In fact, I have 3. And I read the Bible quite a great deal. But I don't take it as literal truth. I take it as a book. There's a collection of mythical stories and things like that. And it's just the case. It's meant to really illustrate a point. You know, even the resurrection of Jesus is meant to illustrate a point. You know, to not give up hope in life. Sometimes when things are really hard, you keep going and you don't give up. And so a lot of times the Bible has been very helpful to me. It has been useful. But I think it becomes useless to me if I take it as science. If I read the Bible as if it were a science book, then it becomes a piece of garbage. It should be thrown in the flames, as David Hume would say. But if you take it for what it is, if you really read it for what it really is, then it's wonderful and it's even helpful. But I also found that to be true with other religious books too. If you take them for what they are. But the minute you start taking them as science, that's when you mess up. That's when you screw up. That's when they become books of superstition and just books of ridiculous things. You know. So it's not what the book is, it's how you're taking it. It's how you take it. You know, just remember that. You have to take it in the right context. It's just like the way, you know, anything else is. What's true in one moment may not be true in another, because circumstances change. You know, it would be like if I told you the weather is 20 degrees outside today. Okay, that's true today. But if I stick to that and write that, let's say I write that, chisel that in stone, it's 20 degrees outside. Well, yeah, that'll be true on days when it's 20. But, you know, tomorrow it may be 60. And I'd have to erase that stone and write a new thing. But if I leave it up there, it's wrong. Right yesterday, wrong today. Well, many things in the Bible, when you take them literal, they might have been corrected sometime. In a certain way, in a certain context, based on people's understanding of the world and everything else. Who knows? There's something you can never know, really, unless you actually go back in time, which none of us can do, except in thought. So that's all I have to say about that.